It might be literally hilarious if you just saw this before this video. Because I was just going to ask you about it. How often do you see this kind of ads or surveys, and how often do you take them? Do you consider them useful for you or for the company? Well, for the company, they are indeed useful, just maybe not in the way you're thinking. And nope, I'm not inventing anything. I'm using references from the following books, which I also highly recommend to everyone. If I would take a survey on these books, and there would be questions like, from 1 to 10, how could you rate this book? Is it good? Which is the probability you would recommend this book to a friend? Of course, I would immediately answer that I love the books and I would totally recommend them and I will write it down, especially if the survey is related strictly to these few books and I'm thinking precisely about them. All of my attention is there. And when I take a survey and I'm reading and I'm writing down my answers, I'm memorizing things much better than just hearing it somewhere. If you read a lot or you're listening to a lot of podcasts about books, and you probably have a lot of ads about books because sure, the algorithms know everything about you. Having so many information around, you sometimes can't really remember the right title, the best book of this year, for example. But a survey requires more of your attention, more of your senses. And the more senses you're involving, the better you remember the information. I think it's already a pretty famous fact. Everything that you write down stays with you on a deeper level. Of course, writing it digitally is not the same as writing it on paper, but it still has very deep effects on your brain. And how it usually happens is that YouTube shows you an ad, with the example of YouTube, but pretty much every other thing works. As the majority of ads, it will have subliminal messages, it will be emotional, and it will have a call to action. And maybe you are not completely focused on the ad you saw. But once you are asked again, you are involuntarily remembering some aspects of the last ads, even if you are not consciously trying to respond to what they're asking you. This is one of many faults of the fast thinking system, also known as System 1. Little parenthesis here, it doesn't mean there is a region of your brain which is the System 1 and the System 2. No, those are just names. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and emotional. For our ancestors, it was probably responsible for survival reflexes. For us, sadly, it's just responsible for infinite scrolling. System 2 is deliberate and rational, so you will really have to turn it on. So this little YouTube survey is not just a data point. It's actually a pre-suasion device to make you buy something. Just ads are not enough. Having all the same ads too many times is the best way to annoy someone. So eventually you will associate the product with this feeling of anger, which of course no company wants. So how to remind you about the brand without being too invasive? In the case of YouTube, actually so uninvasive that you don't really even notice when you're choosing something. But the thing is, your System 1 saw it. Anyway, you hear the name, you see the name, and eventually you click on the name. And once you are in front of the shelf or maybe online shopping, your brain recognizes something familiar. And our brains love familiar things. And there is an infinity of mechanics of survey that tie you strictly to a brand. Have you received a survey lately, maybe from a brand you haven't been buying for a long time? Absolutely, because they want to improve their services. Nope, they're just reminding you of themselves. And they're also reminding you in a way that makes you somehow feel special. In an experiment described in this book, people were asked to advise how to improve a restaurant. They felt important, they felt engaged. And the next time they had to choose a restaurant, guess which was their first choice? The name of the restaurant already resonated with them, and they also somehow felt part of the process, part of why this restaurant is so great. This is a relatively new kind of funnel marketing. In case this term is new for you, I think you're still able to understand that funnel marketing basically drugs you inside the brand. You're constantly reminded about it, and eventually it's like you have no choice. But if once upon a time, it was something unexplored and maybe not so exploited, now marketing strategies are getting further and further. And I don't know how about you, but I personally believe that it's incorrect to play mercilessly on people's brains, on the unconscious parts of their brains. Once again, just for money and for profit, leaving you no choice, because this is not your real choice. And this brand doesn't really care about your opinion. You are just a buyer, and you have emotions, and they can play on it. This is a survey planned in the perfect time when you less expect it. And there are ads and surveys that at a certain point could be even dangerous for your mental health. So the next time you have to choose something, any product, any service, try not to think about what's familiar, even if it feels like the best decision. And try not to think about your friend's recommendation because you don't know what happened in their head. Think for yourself. In every precise situation, you have to think about different ways how to solve it. I get it, it's hard. But honestly, not feeling as a puppet, it's worth it. As always, I tried to make this video as short as possible in order to keep you engaged. But if you want more information, and I hope so, you can find it in the description. Or just tell me like, come on, make longer videos, and I will be like, yay, someone cares. Take care. Bye bye.